Have you ever found yourself standing in the shower, water streaming down your back, when suddenly you're hit with that question? That quiet, unsettling question that seems to emerge from nowhere. Is this really it? You go through the motions. You check the boxes. You follow the script that was handed to you. Education, career, relationships, possessions. The script that promises fulfillment. And yet, there's that persistent whisper inside you that knows something's missing. It's not depression. It's not ingratitude. It's something more fundamental. A sense that you're living someone else's idea of what your life should be. We rarely talk about this feeling, but I know you've felt it. That gap between the life you're living and the life that's calling to you from somewhere deeper. This is where Friedrich Nietzsche enters the conversation, not as some distant academic philosopher, but as someone who saw this same pattern playing out over a century ago. He gave it a name, a framework. He saw modern humans caught between two possibilities, becoming what he called the last man, someone who seeks only comfort, security, and easy happiness. Someone who avoids pain, avoids depth, avoids the difficult questions. Someone who, as Nietzsche put it, blinks at the complexity of existence, or becoming something else entirely. What he called the Übermensch. Now, forget whatever superhero connotations that word might have for you. The Übermensch isn't about physical power or dominating others. It's about something far more profound, becoming the author of your own existence. Think of it this way. Most of us are reading a book someone else wrote about who we should be. The Übermensch tears up that book and writes their own. But here's the brutal truth. This isn't easy. It might be the hardest thing you ever do. And that's exactly why it matters. The comfort trap. Look around. We live in a world masterfully designed to keep us comfortable, distracted, and small. The algorithms know exactly what will keep you scrolling. The marketing knows precisely which insecurities to target. The social pressures know exactly how to keep you in line. Don't rock the boat. Don't ask too many questions. Don't stray too far from the herd. And it's tempting, isn't it? The last man has his streaming queue perfectly curated, his social media perfectly filtered, his life perfectly adequate. There's a certain bliss in this kind of ignorance. But you wouldn't be here if adequate was enough for you. You felt that splinter in your mind. That sense that this comfortable cage, no matter how gilded, is still a cage. The last man says, I've found happiness. Haven't we all? We are all equal. No one is better or worse. This is comfortable. Why risk it? Why question it? And maybe that works for some. But you know better. You sense that real fulfillment, real aliveness, requires something more than comfort. It requires courage, self-overcoming, the inner wrestle. The first principle of becoming your own life's Übermensch is something Nietzsche called self-overcoming. It's that moment when you're about to hit snooze for the third time, but something in you rises up and says no. Not today. It's when you're about to fall back into that old pattern that never serves you, but instead, you pause, breathe, and choose differently. It's that inner battle we all fight, often invisibly, often daily, against our own inertia, our own fears, our own comfortable habits that keep us small. Let's be brutally honest. We are, all of us, masters of self-sabotage. We procrastinate on the things that matter most. We distract ourselves from our deepest truths. We find ingenious ways to avoid becoming who we might be. Carl Jung, building on Nietzsche, would call these the dragons within, the shadow aspects of ourselves that we'd rather not face. But here's what Jung understood. Those dragons guard the greatest treasures. The parts of ourselves we're most afraid to face contain the keys to our most authentic power. The Übermensch doesn't slay these dragons. The Übermensch integrates them, learns from them, transforms them into allies. That critical inner voice, it can become discernment. That stubborn resistance, it can become determination. That unruly passion, it can become creative fire. Every inner obstacle contains its own wisdom, if you're brave enough to engage with it rather than avoid it. This isn't some abstract concept. This is that moment when you finally have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. When you sit down to create despite the fear of failure. When you look honestly at a pattern that's been holding you back for years and say, enough. Self-overcoming isn't about perfection. It's about the courage to face yourself fully, your light and your shadow, and work with all of it. Creating your own values. When Nietzsche famously proclaimed God is dead, he wasn't making a theological statement. He was recognizing something profound about the modern condition, the collapse of shared, universal values that once gave life clear meaning and direction. Without those shared guideposts, we face what existentialists like Sartre and de Beauvoir would later call a radical freedom, the exhilarating and terrifying responsibility to define our own values, our own meaning. Think about it. How many of your shoulds and oughts have you actually chosen? How many have you inherited from parents, society, or institutions without ever questioning them? I should be successful. I should find the perfect partner. I should want children. I should climb the ladder. I should always be productive. The Übermensch doesn't blindly accept these inherited values. Instead, they ask, what do I truly value? What matters to me when no one else is watching? What would I choose if I were truly free to choose? This isn't selfish. It's the opposite. It's the most honest thing you can do, to stop living values you don't actually believe in, to stop pretending, to find what is genuinely sacred to you and to honor it with your life. As Simone de Beauvoir put it, one is not born, but rather becomes. Your essence isn't fixed. It's created through your choices, your commitments, what you stand for. But I'll warn you, this journey from I should to I will is disorienting. There will be moments when you feel lost without those external guideposts, when the vertigo of freedom feels overwhelming. That's not just normal, it's necessary. Cocoon must feel like death to the caterpillar. Amor, Fati. Loving your fate. There's a Roman emperor who used to write to himself by candlelight in his war tent. Marcus Aurelius didn't know he was creating one of history's most profound philosophical texts. He was just trying to make sense of a life filled with power, yes, but also immense suffering and challenge. One of his core principles, which Nietzsche would later call Amor Fati, the love of fate, is perhaps the most counterintuitive aspect of becoming your own Übermensch. It doesn't mean passive resignation to whatever happens. It means something far more powerful. The active embrace of your entire life, the joy and the pain, the victories and the defeats, the beauty and the ugliness, as necessary ingredients in becoming who you are. Think of the hardest thing you've been through. That heartbreak, that failure, that loss, that humiliation. Now ask yourself, who would you be without it? How much of your strength, your wisdom, your compassion was forged in exactly that fire? We spend so much energy fighting against the difficulties of our lives, cursing our bad luck, wishing things were different. The Übermensch doesn't waste that energy. Instead, they ask, what is this here to teach me? How can I use this? How is this necessary for who I'm becoming? Nietzsche put it this way, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. But that's only true if you're willing to extract the lesson, to metabolize the experience into wisdom rather than merely survive it. Amor Fati isn't easy. Sometimes life hands you things that seem unbearable. But the alternative, resisting what already is, only multiplies the suffering without adding any of the growth. What if, and I know this is radical, what if every setback, every struggle, every moment of pain wasn't a punishment but an invitation? Not something happening to you, but something happening for you? The Stoics had a practice called the view from above, imagining yourself looking down at your life from a great height, seeing how each apparent disaster eventually connects to unexpected gifts, how the darkest chapters, feed to precede the most transformative ones. This isn't spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity. It's a clear-eyed recognition that our capacity to find meaning in suffering is one of our most uniquely human powers. As Viktor Frankl discovered in the Nazi concentration camps, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. The will to power, misunderstood, reclaimed. Perhaps Nietzsche's most misunderstood concept is what he called the will to power. It's been twisted by some to justify domination over others. But that's a profound misreading. The will to power isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. It's that innate drive within all of us toward growth, toward expression, toward becoming more than we currently are. Think of a plant growing toward the light, overcoming any obstacle in its path. It doesn't question this drive, it simply expresses it. That's the will to power in its purest form. You've felt it. That inner fire. That ambition that has nothing to do with status or comparison, but everything to do with becoming fully what you are. The desire to create, to build, to express, to master, to transcend your current limitations. Society often asks us to dampen this fire, to be reasonable, to set realistic goals, to not want too much, dream too big, stand out too boldly. The Übermensch refuses this dampening, not out of ego, but out of honesty, because to deny that fire is to deny your own nature. Freud recognized this too, those primal drives within us that, when repressed, emerge as neurosis, but when channeled, become our greatest creative forces. The will to power isn't something you need to create or find. It's already there, humming within you. The question is whether you'll acknowledge it, honor it, channel it towards something meaningful. What would it look like to fully embrace that drive within you? Not to use it against others, but to overcome your own limitations? To channel it into creation rather than destruction. This isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about becoming fully human. The journey, not the destination. Here's a crucial point. The Übermensch isn't a final state you achieve and then you're done. It's not a finish line. It's a direction, a continuous process of becoming. Kierkegaard, another philosopher wrestling with these same questions, spoke of life as a task of becoming. He said, "Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced." The Übermensch doesn't solve the riddle of existence once and for all. The Übermensch embraces the journey itself, with all its contradictions, its questions, its unresolvable tensions. This is actually good news. It means you don't have to figure it all out at once. You don't have to become perfect. You just have to take the next authentic step, and then the next, and the next. As Camus put it, the struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. The path of the Übermensch is never finished. There's always another dragon to face, another value to question, another limitation to transcend. And that's not a burden, it's a gift. It means life never becomes stale, never becomes fixed, never stops inviting you deeper. Conclusion, your canvas. We live in a world that wants to shrink you, to turn you into a demographic, a consumer, a data point. A world that profits from your smallness, your insecurity, your willingness to follow without questioning. The radical act, the truly subversive choice, is to refuse that shrinking, to insist on your own bigness. Not ego bigness, but soul bigness. The vastness of what a human life can be when it's lived with courage, with awareness, with the willingness to author itself. The canvas of your life is vast. The question isn't if you can paint your masterpiece, but whether you'll pick up the brush at all, especially when your hand trembles. Will you dare to tear up the script you were handed? Will you brave the discomfort of facing yourself fully? Will you accept the awesome responsibility of creating your own values? Will you find the courage to love the entirety of your fate? Will you honor the fire within you that calls you to become more? No one can answer these questions for you. No one can walk this path for you. That's the point. But I will tell you this, I believe the world needs more people willing to undertake this journey. More people refusing to be last men and women, blinking comfortably at existence. More people willing to wrestle with the deepest questions of what it means to be alive, to be human, to be you. Maybe the Übermensch isn't some distant ideal. Maybe it's what we're all called to become, each in our own unique way. Not to reach some perfect end state, but to fully engage with the magnificent, terrifying process of becoming fully human, fully ourselves. The path isn't easy, but perhaps the easy path was never really the point. What's one small act of self-overcoming you can embrace today? One inherited should you can question? One difficulty you can begin to see as necessary to your becoming? Share your thoughts in the comments. The conversation continues there. And if these reflections resonated with you, You know what to do: like, share, subscribe. Let's keep exploring together. Because the most profound journeys are never walked alone,